We can take this to a different level, and there's no better time than now.
I'll let you take the stage.
I'm probably the most decorated UK player. Like, genuinely.
Nice event.
Oh, the read! Oh, get this stride! Oh my God! He's just a boy!
I hope you all had an amazing weekend. Maybe next year.
Will, welcome to the show. Our
Thank you.
inaugural guest. Number of places that we could start. I think it's fair to say you've been in the scene for
Too long.
a long time. But perhaps it's fitting, in some sense, to begin, I guess, at the end, because you've announced somewhat recently that you're taking a step back from Smash TOing, in specific from Team Regen. So
Yeah.
just tell me a little bit about the context behind that decision and why now in particular is the right time.
I mean, for me, like, because I've been TOing forever, I think when I started, like, if we go all the way back, so we'll do a bit of history before I go really into it. But, you know, I started TOing 2009, like, in my house. The very first tournament I did was just a little brawl tournament in my house. I think Melly was there too. But, you know, that's 15 years of TOing Smash and Smash only. So I think we've got Regen to a point now where it's like, okay, the TOing and, you know, the venues, like, we're obviously, you can tell we're in the venue now, but, you know, we've got to a point where we're comfortable with that. And I think for me, it's Regen is something much bigger. There's a lot more we can do with it. And for me personally, I don't want to just stay as a Smash TO. I want to be the event organizer. I see a difference between the two. I think a lot of events, maybe within the Smash community, put too much emphasis on the term TO. You're a tournament organizer, but you're doing all these other things. Really, they should just be a tournament organizer. And I felt I stopped doing that a long time ago. Like, I've been trying to do every single thing. Like, I was doing stands a minute ago, and you know, all the maybe social side of things. And these are all roles which can be delegated to people. And, you know, there's better people to do those roles than me. And while I think I'm a good Smash TO, I think I'm a much better event organizer now. And it's exploring that and developing there and taking Team Regen and the Regen events to a different level. So
Right. I always got the slight undercurrent from when you announced that, because some people took that in a strange way. They were like, "Oh my gosh, is this it? Is Regen finished? Is Will finished?"
People that came up to me at Grand Conquest were like, "So you're gone? is it done?" Like, I'm like, dude, I own a company. Like, the company is Team Regen. Like, the company's not going anywhere. Once again, the point is just we can take this to a different level, and the only way we can take it to that level is if me, as the director, refocuses that to making sure we get to that point. And then having someone or having a team of people be the TOs, like the Smash TOs. Like, we've already got people in production like JJ and Kara who do a fantastic job. So, you know, a lot of these spaces are filled, but having someone fill the Smash TO role, that is something which will happen.
I also slightly got the impression, and you can probably tell me here, that stepping back from Smash TOing implies to me, maybe I'm being a bit too optimistic, that maybe there's room for Team Regen to be branching out a little bit further beyond Smash.
Yeah, no.
I don't know if that's something you can discuss in the here and now, or if that's just a...
No, absolutely. I mean, with Smash in itself, like, Smash, if you look at Smash now, it's been 5 years, nearly 6 years,
Yeah,
I think, since Ultimate came out. And, you know, it's quite obvious to me that it is stagnating, or at least it's dropped off somewhat. So let's explore other games. There's plenty of games on the horizon that are coming out. There's plenty of games with great scenes in the UK and Europe which could support. So I'm not going to say which games because I need to decide on that, you know, finalize that for maybe things like Regen and events past then, or whether there's going to be game-specific events for those. You know, we'll figure out when we get there.
Yeah, because logistically, I can imagine it's quite different running an event where you've got sort of your bread and butter monitor, switch.
I mean,
you're not going to, I don't know how logistically simple it is to run 5-on-5 League of Legends if you've never sort of done that before.
When we're going into like the PC gaming territory, that's different. But
Yeah.
I've been around that. Like I was, helping out back at Insomnia, like back in the day. So I was exposed to how other game tournaments ran, and you yourself got into with the patchwork stuff. You weren't running events, were you, or was it like online?
I think it was around sort of COVID time, yeah. So it was like you get a taste of it, but it's hard to sort of equate that to IRL stuff.
Breaking into that's hard. But I think, a lot of people, and this applies to maybe esport teams as well, when they try and break into stuff, it's just like, oh, cool, I want to make an esport team and let's do this. But it's like, it doesn't work like that. You've got to figure out all the little parts of it to actually make it successful. But with, say, Team Regen, we've built this over 6 years now, where it's like, okay, we know what we're good at, we know what we can be good at, but how do we get to that? So that's kind of the phase we're at the minute, I feel. And Regen this year is going to be special. So
I was speaking just in passing with maybe you and Okara, but I know that you've all got very high standards for stuff you do with Team Regen. So I get the feeling that you wouldn't necessarily take a step into a new game or completely pivot into almost like a different kind of thing that TR are doing unless you were going to nail it. Because we've seen even you think about people or different organizations coming into Smash, like in the EU and US, who don't really quite know what they're doing, but they're just sort of like, oh, this seems cool. And it's difficult for them to kind of get accepted in that way because it's kind of like an outsider who's just trying to take advantage of a bit of hype for a new release or something. So it's easier said than done. So.
People always want to jump on the hype train. Look when Ultimate came out, man. There was so many different events for it, and companies supporting it, and that dwindles over time. This is going to be the case for every game, but with stuff we could potentially jump onto and support. The way I see supporting a community is long term. You can't do like short term success or like long-term prosperity. Like that's what I kind of want to strive for with the support we have. Like this weekend we're going to be supporting Melee again. We've not had Melee here since 2019, Regen 2019.
Oh really?
I think. Like we've had like a couple smaller tournaments, but this whole room that we're in right now, that's going to be for Melee. Like we're giving them the space because I want to show those guys what we've become. Like it's been really 5 years, and that's a lot of like growth in that period. So I just want to show them this is a Team Regen event, this is what we could do for you guys and how we can support you in the future potentially. So, and there's other communities as well that are out there that I want to branch into and support, but once again we'll have to see how that pans out.
Fair enough. So taking a step back, I feel like an obvious question to ask, we even touched upon it maybe off camera briefly. Take me back that very start of, because this would have been Smash 4 Team Regen first blossomed.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed massively. I think one thing the UK was really lacking back then was structure. Like we had no structure to the scene. There was just a lot of, people or teams like just trying to organize tournaments, but there wasn't really the know-how or the support there to really make them happen. So I recall back to 2017, just the absolute state of some of the regions, which, I won't name them, I'm not going to be harsh, but it's like some of the events were not ran well at all. And that was just a continuing, like, it just continued like every single month. But people still showed up. There was a community there for it that was willing to support. And I was like, man, I can do better than this. Like, I genuinely know I can do better than this. And I hadn't TO'd I was TOing O'Neill's weeklies.
Oh, yeah.
So the O'Neill's weeklies in Leicester, which were the best weeklies ever.
Right.
But, I've been doing them for, I think, about a year or two at that point. And I was just like, I need to branch out. I can do something bigger. Like, and then the first event we did being Regen, which was at Aston Uni, also in Birmingham.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the start of 2018. I remember just before then, I was like, okay, we need to put a team together for how, we can kind of build this event and who's good at what and how we can thrive. Like Zach, for example. Zach's, back then, all he made was memes. Like a graphic artist.
To use.
No, exactly. Yeah. But Zach's talent. Like Zach was insanely talented back then. Like we were like, oh, man, that's a funny ass meme. But we can apply that skill to branding and like marketing and that kind of side of things. So it's like, okay, we'll smash that. Jack was a keen photographer, just starting out at the time, I believe. I'm like, okay, you can be the photographer. And then I'm not sure if it was, I think it was a little bit later, but the Gala, like, coming on with the streaming, we didn't have a streamer. We were just like, oh, we've got an Elgato, plug that in. It will be an absolute shit show, but, that's not ideal. We want it to be presentable. We want this to be, make it last kind of thing. So.
Yeah, I remember back in the day, there was a bit of a quite healthy sort of arms race between the different TO groups, a kind of bit of healthy competition. You had the DAC guys in London, the SSM guys in Manchester, and then TR in Midlands. And I think there was a nice sort of, because as you say, back in the day, it was kind of build it and they will come. Like you didn't have a load of choice for what events you might go to. Yeah. Depends where you live, I guess, to some extent. But like people would like travel halfway across the country for an 8-man.
Well, I still remember because with Regen, the very first Regen, no one was. Well, we were kind of concerned because we're running an event in the Midlands. The Midlands did have a bad rep for its events back then. We were just like, we're going to change the whole point of Regen. This is some inside knowledge. Regen is regeneration, so it was let's regenerate the Midlands. That was the whole point, and obviously that name's stuck now. It can mean a bunch of different things, but at the time, that was what the sole purpose of that event was. Let's have a comeback for the Midlands. The Midlands was the focus. Now I feel we've branched off onto the UK and then Europe and bigger things. But let's start with our scene and how we can build that scene and how we can get interest from the other scenes to help support us. And I think it worked out.
It's been going well, I guess. Do you think you mentioned O'Neill's before? Mm-hmm. I feel like there's always been a slight tension of trying to get weeklies up and going in the Midlands. I feel like you've said there, you've gone on to sort of branch out as like trying to regenerate the Midlands.
Cut you
and
off,
then,
Mike.
And then push off.
I thought you were going to ask to bring the O'Neill's monthly thing back, which, by the way, Mike has a trophy in his room. Sorry, back to your point, Mike.
I was only going to ask about, because you mentioned the O'Neill's weeklies. Yeah. And I know that, as you say, Team Regen have kind of tried to like push on to sort of, bigger things and try and be national and international now. Because it feels like you've tried to do weeklies, but do you think it's sort of for other people's turn to kind of pick that up now?
I think, because put it this way, with the Midlands, let's look at Breakout for a minute. So with Breakout, we brought that. We had a great venue in the Wetherspoons. Things didn't pan out well in terms of, having it run weekly because it will get cancelled. But and then we've brought it back to Roseville, fantastic venue which we used to. I think we were using for events back in 2014-15. So we've got a great relationship with them. But I think towards the end of last year, we're just like, I don't feel like this is our duty now, in the sense that we have a lot of other commitments. With, say, running the events to scale of Regen and Invasion, we need to help or allow the community to build and figure that out for themselves as well. So I know Breakout has got its own team now, Dante behind there. But Breakout's got its own team now. Yeah. And, a lot of them are really keen and eager to grow and learn. And I think that's the important part. And I think maybe we didn't see that, say, a year ago. It was like, we'll bring Breakout back and we'll do all this. But it's like, okay, but can we support it to the same capacity? Like, we're a bit more stretched out now. So
spread yourself thin a little bit.
Exactly, yeah. So it's difficult. And I think that's best left with, those who are in the community that are really eager to push it and build upon it. That's who it should sit with.
Something I kind of want to ask you about, not for the specifics of the decision, but just the context around it. We're here at Invasion 2024, the night before, and a certain blocky man is allowed again, Minecraft Steve. I know who's banned. Was it Regen 23? That was the last event we had here. Yeah. And he was banned. Notwithstanding the pros and cons of that decision, tell me, like, for an average player watching this, how do you come to that sort of decision? Is it sort of a shady, dark room with a bunch of TOs and sort of decide?
Oh, yeah.
Or is it more of a holistic approach, the sort of
the evil,
considering a number of things? Or?
The evil TOs conspiring. No, it was more of a case that we'd, if I can recollect, what
it was a few months ago now.
It was about a year ago. I think the conversation for banning Steve for us happened way before Invasion, like last year. So, it's between us and other TO teams in the UK where we were informed, we might be going for a ban. And, we discussed it internally within the team. We did a vote. Bear in mind, we did a vote 3 times. If I don't point that out, Mitch is going to kill me.
I heard you asked them to vote a lot.
Because the point was, it's like, if we're going to make a change, that affects, the tournament, the players, etc. Like, that matters to me. I want people to come here and have the best time. So even though it's a Steve player, I don't want them to have a worse time at the event. I know that might hurt or annoy some people, but I want them to come here and have the best time possible.
Yeah.
Which they can't really have. I mean, you could say just don't come then, but we want people to come to our
Want
events.
the attendees, yeah.
With the Steve ban itself, though, I could foresee it panning 2 different ways. Obviously, one was everyone bans it, and the other being he isn't banned following Regen, and no other events pick it up, and that's exactly what's happened. I think when we banned him, it was like we are thinking about the future of the game. I suppose in the case that some of us on the team, we were here during Smash 4, Brawl, me.
We've seen parallels before.
Exactly, and it's like, okay, do we want another Bayo? Do we want another Meta Knight kind of situation? Is he up to that level? Is Steve on the same tier as those? Like overall, I don't know, but yeah, personally, I felt like it was for the best to ban him at the time. But then, if no one else is going to shift, what's the point being the only one doing it? Like,
yeah,
I mean, you could say there's a niche for that, maybe, but in terms of growth and maybe from a business point of view, like, let's not limit who can come to our events, essentially.
Yeah, because I was going to ask in terms of, is there a decision to be made about sort of whether to follow the crowd, not in a sort of an unpleasant way, but in a kind of like we need to sort of have consistency amongst the region, amongst the UK.
Well, I mean, if everything was consistent, Europe in general, we have the same rule set more or less everywhere, other than France. I don't know if they're using that now.
Just bring out Lilac just in topic.
Yeah, screw it. Here's Lilac, guys. Yeah. Great stage. But there's stage lists, there's rule sets, character bands, whatever. If that was consistent across the board, great. Wouldn't even be having this conversation. I mean, would probably. Steve would be still broken, but I can't see it ever being consistent because it just requires so much work. There's no global board overseeing Smash, which does make things difficult, I suppose, but we make it work.
Fair. You said 2008, 2009 was the first time you TO'd or something.
2009, yeah.
Is that Willz?
February 2009 was the very first Willsville. It wasn't called Willsville then. It was called, what was it called? It was like East Midlands Ranbats. We used to call ranked, you familiar with the term?
Isn't Ranbats like a Pokemon thing or something?
I mean, maybe.
I don't know. I'm out the loop.
I nicked it off someone else, but
yeah.
It was, East Midlands Ranbats. And they were we'd do a monthly or they were bi-monthly Brawl and Melee, and they count towards the PR for the East Midlands. So that was the start, and fortunately my parents allowed it. I don't know why. Sorry, but
but I bring it up because you've been doing this a long time. Will, what is the enthusiasm? What is the general motivation? Maybe not to play the game as much these days, but still just to like be so involved. And even though you're taking a step back in the sort of grunt work on the day, TOing work, you're still involved a lot in this scene.
I don't want to remove myself from the scene. Like I want to be a part of the community. I've been here long enough where I'm like, why would I leave? Like, well, what would the benefit in me just saying, screw it, I'm gone? Like, I want to be around as long as I can. And, sure, there might be a time in 5, 10, 15 years or so, I'm like, okay, you're too old now, Will. Like, it's time to pack it up. But for now, I've been here more than half my life, like, which is crazy. And I've seen it change so many times. I've made friends. Some friends have left the scene. You go through the motions of 3 different Smash games as well, but it's always great meeting people. That's always the fun part. That's why some of the maybe veteran players we still stick around, because we like meeting people, we like seeing our mates and having a good time. And I don't think there's anywhere else, maybe in the world, that has better events than the UK scene. Like, we've been to countries abroad, and I've never had that same feeling. Like, I felt like I'm going on a tangent here, but there's more of a tournament focused feeling everywhere else in the world. While here, it's, to generalize it, but it's an event.
Yeah, event-focused.
Event-focused, where, there's all the different parts of what an event should consist of are happening. And I think that's why I want to keep doing it, man. It is the best part about it, and I don't think I'll ever stop.
Fair.
Until I do.
Until you do. So, okay, memory lane time. It's strange to me, feeling like a bit of an old head now, because I was in the scene, 2015 for Smash 4. And it's strange to me, people have only just played ult, like they've got into the comp scene and they're doing really well, or they've been around for a while. They've been around for 5 years, but they've only played ult. And that's just funny, because we have so many anecdotes of like the Smash 4 guys, sort of like, even though it wasn't that long ago, it still is. It feels like a bit of a different era, and you have like anecdotes and stories of how things were. But you've been around even longer for the brawl and melee scene. I can imagine it's changed a lot, but in a very general sense, what would you say are the things that have really? Really changed?
We're not doing house tourneys for once. So, now I don't think we do house tourneys anymore. There might be. Who knows?
We do Summit.
We do Summit. Yeah, we do Summit. That's true.
In a house, probably.
Airbnb.
Yeah, they're long term.
I'm trying to think, man, because the brawl scene itself, from when I went to events, there wasn't like, we weren't going to conference centers. We were going to like a village, like hall,
like a community center.
Community center, yeah. So we had like the community centers, and then in Manchester, do you remember in Game they used to have like a downstairs area?
Not that I went to them.
So in Manchester they had like a downstairs area, and we
yeah.
ran tournaments in there. There was 4 setups.
Yeah.
For like 30 people, we ran the tournament in there, and it shut at 6. So
Right.
I'm pretty sure best of ones happened.
Right.
And it's like, man, I just traveled all the way here, but that the venues obviously has changed. The venues have changed. The community's got way bigger with each game. Like Brawl to Smash 4 was a crazy leap. Smash 4 dwindled over time, but Smash 4 to ult, completely different. That was when the level up for us had to happen. Like when we ran, and it's crazy. Regen 2019 was ult. In my mind, it feels like it should be Smash 4 because of how long ago it is. But that was the first time we used this venue, and this venue ain't cheap. Like we put a lot of money down for it, and it was a big risk for us. But the moment we were successful, I was like, this is the start of something.
You're onto something good.
Exactly, yeah.
Do you think, I remember you once told me that the melee scene kind of became a lot more about it wasn't a criticism you had of them, but it was like they're not here to sort of try hard and compete and do well and like thrive. Do you think there's like a slight, I don't know if that's always been the case, but because that's not always like inherently like a bad thing. Like if people just come to have a good time.
From what I gather, and from what I've seen, when I look for brackets, the events which always pop off the most are Arcadians. And, Arcade, there's nothing wrong with that. We've done Arcadians in the past. We've had the New Era series. But
and they've been big. They've been popular
exactly.
as well. Yeah.
Like, I don't know, the Melee guys, they're doing, they've had New Wave in the past, and they've had recently Arcadia, and they're getting 100+ entrants. But then I look at some of the other Melee events, and I'm like, it's 30, 40, 50, 60 entrants. I'm like, there's obviously why is there a gap there? And I'm not going to be the best person to speak on it because I'm not active there anymore. But I think from my experience in the Melee community over the past few years, there's a lot more of a social focus there. So being great at the game, cool. Like, good for you, mate. Like, they had their, like, Professor Pro. It was always going to be the GOAT to every UK player. Sure, we can have like 5 more players of his level or just below it. That's cool. But I don't think the majority of players really care about getting to that level or beyond it. Yeah. Some do. That's fine. Awesome. Because I think it's always good to see UK players. And it applies to this game as well. Just like travel anywhere in the world and do sick. We want to support our guys. But Melee guys like Arcadians, I mean, we did. There was a time where, do you remember when New Era happened and how like that capped out straight away?
Well, I think I think people, if they know the outcome of a tournament, it's like a little bit less fun. But if it's like a chance for the spotlight to be shone on, you know, the sort of player just the next level down,
I suppose, but
it's interesting.
But then if there's like 10 Arcadians and it's like you've just
I think it was good because New Era 1 was what Smash 4, and then there was a good few years before.
Yeah.
Like we've only done. You guys have only done what?
We've only done 2
per game,
2
right?
Eras,
So
yeah.
that's something. I mean, it's funny that you might say in a disparaging way, "Oh, the Melee guys, they're not taking it that seriously." But it's funny now these days, especially as like we're getting a bit older, you and I at least. But maybe there's an advantage for events to have that focus more, as you say, sort of appealing more to the events, the sort of the vibe, the fun of it, because I always just think about the math of it. Like 50% of players are going to go O2. Yeah. So they need to have a good time, even if it's like they're going to put all of their worth on the brackets.
I mean, look at it this way. It's like if 100 plus people are showing up to Arcadian, I'd imagine the majority of them don't really care how they're going to do. Great. So that's where their focus is. They want to go there, have a good time with their friends, have a drink, you know, play some Melee. And I think that's what worked for when we did the Arcadian. Sure, there was a lot of competition where there was like, oh, we really want to, I've got a chance to win.
Yeah.
That was the mindset. I was like, oh, I could win this, which majority didn't. So, yeah. But with the Melee guys, you know, that's their thing. And I don't want to knock it. If anything, I want to support that. Saying, you know, doesn't mean, oh, Team Regen are going to do an Arcadian for Melee now. No, nothing like that. But I want to see ways we can support them more, just to touch on the Melee front. So, yeah.
I think you speak to a few of the kind of younger, aspiring TOs in the scene. And I think they are genuinely quite inspired by what Team Regen and others have done in the UK and beyond. And I know that some TOs, they might try and bite off more than they can chew, but you speak to some of them and they do genuinely want to one day push on and at least maybe not immediately get to the level of the Team Regen style events, but like have that as a genuine end goal. Do you have any thoughts or general advice on those who are trying to push their events?
I mean, starting's already a good thing to do, right? Like when I started, I was like, Mum and Dad, can I run a tournament in the house? I need just use the TVs from my brother, my parents, whatever, put them in my room. So just making that first step, probably the hardest for a lot of people. You know, a lot of people don't want to just say, I'm going to be a TO or I'd like to be a TO, but they don't understand how to be a successful TO, which, you know, I'm fortunate to have become. But for me, you know, with the event side of things, there's nothing wrong with aiming high, setting a goal. Like my goal and where I want Regen to be is something the scale of like Insomnia. Like that is, I want to take it to a convention center and run it in a convention center, multiple halls, you know, several days, do that maybe once or twice a year. Ever since I've been going to Insomnia, that's kind of where it began and gave me the idea of like, okay, they've got here after several years of doing that. I'd like to do the same. And how can I apply that to what I'm currently doing and then grow from there? So that's always kind of been my goal from the get-go, from literally Regen, the very first Regen 6 years ago. And I feel like we're making steady progress. Don't rush it, essentially. The time will pass. Like the
it's
amount
sort of like walk before you can run kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think people, you know, you can probably think of a few events maybe in the UK actually where they'd run an event which was successful, but maybe it was like some smaller scale, maybe just a weekly or 32 person monthly, and then suddenly we're doing 128 man or the 256 entrant cap. Like, nah, it's gradual. Like, you gotta build up yourself, your experience. You gotta build up your team, because none of this happens without a team. Like,
Is this not all you, Will? What are you saying?
well, I mean, well, you know, I can do everything here, jack of all trades, but master of none. Yeah. But no, you got to find the right people. I think that's, if you want to actually do something the scale of a Regen or other events such as like a Terror or Dat Blast Zone, etc., like a Grand Conquest. You know, you want to find the right people who's good at doing, say, the TOing, who's good at doing the marketing on Twitter, or, you know, who's good with the stream. You need to find those people and treat them with respect. I think, you know, as long as people have some sense of equity in the team and are responsible for how things do, I think that's the best thing you can have. Because a lot of people just get thrown together with like, oh, you're going to be a TO, but you're also playing. So it's like, you can't have the responsibility. You will never do your job right. I've never played. Since I started Regen, I've never played, other than maybe like doubles here and there. But like most of the time, you know, I never play in tournament, because I was like, okay, I'm going to be a TO. That's all I'm doing. That is the priority for not just me, but the event. Like, if I'm not doing my job, someone else is going to have to pick that up, who maybe not as experienced in that role. So there's parts like that.
I imagine we'll try and get this episode out before Regen 2024.
Regen 2024 will be announced. We're announcing it.
Right.
We're literally, this is Friday.
Yeah.
So half of finished making the trailer last night. So this is the tight schedule we run on. But it's amazing. And I'm really excited to see the general reaction to that. Not just from, you know, the in-person crowd, but I think worldwide. I think there's some names in there. I mean, it'll be released, so I might as well say, but, you know, some spoilers.
From the past.
So we've got Leo, we've got Cola, Meister, who else we got coming? A lot, basically pretty much every European talent.
I know the big EU guys, yeah, I think it's like Siski and Tarek. And
you know, the event is something completely different. Sure, there's going to be the competitor focus, where like bringing these players in, they add a lot of value to the event. But we're also at a new venue, which is the Athena in Leicester.
I'm so happy you got to do it in LC.
Yeah, I know. Well, that was
finally,
the thing.
It all comes back to Leicester.
It was like, I'm gonna run my final tournament as a TO, not quitting, but final tournament as a TO in my city of LC. I'll throw one up. Got to get one in. Like, that's two now, maybe three. But you know, doing that in my city meant a lot to me. Means a lot to me, because it's where everything started. So I think it's nice. It's just maybe somewhat selfish to bring it back there, but I think even with this venue, if we want to take Regen to the scale it probably deserves now, we needed to find somewhere bigger. And you know, this venue's fantastic. It's it used to be a cinema like decades ago. Then it's been renovated into an event, which, you know, event venue, which you can do, which I think is up to, it's past 1,000 attendant capacity. So that's completely ideal. And I think the best part of the venue is because it is a theatre, you know, there's two levels to it. So you could be down here, you could be up here, you can see the stage at all times. And there's screens there, so everyone can see. We've got literally everything around the venue. There will be like screens on the wall. We've got bars there. The actual area of Leicester it's in is a really nice spot. So there's, you know, other entertainment things to do nearby. For me, this is like a dream, man. I think like bringing it to Leicester is what will show. Well, we will put on probably the best event I think we've ever put on, and I'd like to think it'd be the best UK event of all time. So that's kind of the expectations I've set for myself. You know, there's some good competition in terms of the best event ever. for Smash.
I know you're watching GP. I know you're watching.
Exactly. I mean, Albion by GP, and then there's the Air Series by Cone, and then the Fate Series by the Fate Smash team. Those three event series are monumental in terms of what they've done for the UK scene. And I think Regen, sure, we're alongside that, but I want to do something at the scale of what Air and Albion have managed to accomplish. And there's no better time than now. I've been developing my experience along with the team for the past 6 years, and I think it's the right time to make the risk of doing something much bigger. Will it pay off? We'll have to see. But I'm very confident that this will be the best event ever, that we've done. No doubt about that, and hopefully the best event the UK's ever had. So.
Well, tell me about True Believer, the combo video. I'll let you take the stage. Why has that become such an iconic thing in not just the UK? I dare say the world.
There's maybe a bit of backstory to that, which I can share.
Go on.
The combo videos I made back then, I was between the ages of 14, 15. So I was a young up and coming.
You were cooking.
I was cooking, bro. The combo videos before that, they were just CPU combo videos, but I was cooking in them. And then the actual one dropped, True Believer one. I don't even know if it's called True Believer.
I think it's just called Willz Best
Falcon in the world, which is not wrong. But I think the music bangs. Supposedly that music is in a Mango combo video as well.
Really?
I don't know if it predates my one.
Are you the
If
inspiration?
it does, it doesn't matter because it's my music.
Yeah.
And you know what would be the best thing? If that song by that artist was performed at Regen. I don't think that's.
Are they still alive?
I don't know, maybe, maybe not. But to close out Regen, to have the final send off for me as a TO,
we should make it happen.
We should.
We need to make it happen.
Ridiculous idea, but it'd be amazing. But yeah, the actual combo video itself, I don't know what I was thinking. I just genuinely don't know.
You're known as this legendary TO at this point, but I know you can cook in game, or at least you definitely did at one point. Give me some career highlights, because you've played so many different games. I don't know which you would say you were best at. I don't know. I want to say you had little highlights in.
Okay, so let's go from the start. So we had Brawl, then Project M, and Melee. So this is just a general trajectory. I started with Melee before I played competitively, but then competitively I played Brawls first, and later on got into Melee, and then Project M. Then played Smash 4, and then played Ultimate, and then a bit of HDR. Yeah. But, out of all of those games, I'm pretty sure I've been on the PR for every single one. I don't think anyone else has done that. the only game I haven't really played is N64. But, those Smash games and, the mods like PM and HDR, I don't know. I just click with them. I think Smash for me, if I play, I just get it. I don't know how to explain it. I'm not the best player in the world, sure, but I understand how the game is going to be played competitively, and then things like nerves and stuff, I'm usually quite calm, unless it's super high stakes. But I don't understand why I've been PR'd for every game. Maybe I'm just really good.
You just got that dog in you.
I just got that dog in me. But no, I think personal highlights for me was when the doc released, the Melee doc.
The 2014 one, yeah.
It was 2013, 2014. And
oh, right.
Because I was done. So I played Brawl from when the game came out. And then I stopped playing around 2010. I started college when I turned 16. I was like, I'm done with this. I'm done with Smash. And then fast forward 2-3 years, the doc releases, and there's this huge interest in playing Melee again, insane. There was a period where tournaments were national level tournaments were getting 50 or below entrants, which is insane. That's a weekly to some places here nowadays. But I was like, cool, I might play again then. If the dot was picking up, and like there was one event I think where the old Heart Gaming was in London, I was like, screw it, I'll go down to it, check it out. Had a good time. I was like, man, I can still go. I think I got top 8 or top 12, something like that day. And then I played PM for the first time as well. I was like, let's keep playing. So I started attending events again towards the end of 2013, early 2014. And that 2014 period where Project 10 was the best game ever. Like, we remember Prof versus...
Oh, the Snake Ditto.
What's his name? I can't even remember his name now. But
The victim.
the victim
of that.
But Prof versus that guy was a huge turning point because it was just such a big set. Rolex, that was it.
Oh, right.
It's
Okay.
called Rolex, yeah. So that set was huge for the scene. Like, I remember watching it. We were at like a regional in the Midlands in the time. Everyone's going fucking nuts.
You can see in the room if you watch it back, people are like
Yeah,
losing it.
Like, you know, Prof the dance, iconic.
So good.
But you know, that was huge at the time. The dark into like how big PM was becoming. Like, Armada was insane at PM. I mean, his reign in Melee, you know, legend in itself. And just the general interest really boosted the game. And then towards the end of the year, what comes out? Or was it even towards the end? It might have been like halfway through when Smash 4 came out.
2014.
Yeah.
Smash 4. I'm not sure.
So that year, crazy year. 2015 also a good year, and then so on, so on. And I think every year's been really good. This is from a player perspective until maybe the past 2 years where you can tell, like, do not look up my results, but they're not good anymore. But
You beat Anathema at Gommel, right? Oh, that was.
I don't know what the hell happened there.
You were cooking.
I mean, if Anathema wants to come to Regen,
Or run it back.
run it back in Story Suite, by all means. Yeah, I don't know how that happened. I mean, there were some highlights of Genesis with you know who, and I was like, man, I could really do something, but I don't practice. And that's, once again, go back to how I just kind of get it. Like, I don't practice the game. That's not flex, because I should practice
Bit
if
of
I,
flex, yeah.
well, if I practice, I could probably be better, sure. Just wasn't interested. I just like playing. It's fun. So, got me here.
A TOing man these days instead, yeah. Well, pleasure. Thank you for joining me on this inaugural episode.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
Oh, I have one last question
Go
for
on.
you, Mike, which
Go
has
on.
just popped in my head.
Go on.
What do you think the chances are that Everton will be relegated this season?
And thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Everton's Premier League status for next season is assured.
At the end of the day, you want to be entertained, and those guys, even with the limited Smash knowledge, they entertain. So that answers the question for itself.